Hi everyone, so happy to be here. And special thanks to Brianda for putting this together. I learned at the last month's meetup some fun facts, statistics that there's only 15% of BIPOC therapists in the field and only 7% Latinx. So I think that it's really important that we gather, and really grateful for Brianna's efforts and initiatives in this and forming this community, this network. So really excited to tell you about my passion today, which is psychedelic art therapy, and my journey of how I got started in this path. I'm licensed creative arts therapist and a ketamine-assisted psychotherapist. Next slide, please. Oh, you're already on there. So my journey started out really young with a strong interest in art. And I used to be a very shy kid, very introverted, always introspective and observing everyone. And then I would make my doodles and I would be like, this is what's going on. I also gravitated towards art as an emotional expression, but also visioning. So I would kind of do vision boards as a kid, like, this is what I want my apartment to look like. And I'm gonna have, I had, 16 rooms. You know how kids are, we dream big. And I was like, each room's gonna have a different theme. And so I would design things like that, or like, a safe space for me and my mom. So I started out just naturally being that way, and that was really nurtured. And that led me to go to a specialized high school here in New York, which is LaGuardia Arts. And they have a whole audition process that you have to go through when you're like a 13-year-old kid. And I was like, I'm gonna go study art. So I got in, I was accepted. And yeah, you can learn all mediums there at LaGuardia. So I did that. I learned photography, watercolor, graphic design. And as I was in my teen years in high school, I was like, I think there's something to this whole, catharsis and art making. And I became really interested in psychology. So I went on and I pursued that. I did undergrad in psych and art, and then I received my master's in creative arts therapy. And then I started working in what was a DIY bushwick art scene when I became graduated. And so I started working in lots of different agencies. And so now I, have kind of always just been interested in psychology and art and the spiritual connection. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about how I ended up incorporating the psychedelics. So in college was my first introduction to psychedelics. When you grow up in the Bronx, my family was very protective, overprotective, as a safety strategy. So I was never, exposed. It was like the whole 90s, war on drugs thing, and, it was all this abstinence, kind of drug education. And so I ended up getting introduced to that later in the music and art scenes in college. And I was like, well, wait a second, this is different. This is a way to explore yourself, explore your consciousness. And why isn't this tool being used in psychology? And I actually started researching on the internet. And I was like, wait, there's a whole body of research on LSD that was synthesized for therapy purposes. And then it escaped the labs. And oh, what? And then it had this counterculture thing with the hippies. And so I'm reading all this as I'm studying psychology and art. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is fascinating. And so I had this dream. I was like, what if this comes back? What if it becomes researched again and legalized? And now we're in the psychedelic renaissance. So it was just so amazing. I started following this org called MAPS that they advocate for psychedelic therapy. They actually study MDMA for application with vets, and the Veterans Affairs really pushing forward funding for psychedelic therapy research, and it's really helpful for PTSD. But right now, we are just in the phase of ketamine therapy being legalized. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you more about today. And actually started to become interested in getting ketamine trained during 2020. So I was still working in agencies and group practices in New York City when the COVID pandemic hit, and it was a really big surge in a mental health crisis. So my caseload doubled, I had so much demand that I couldn't keep up with, and we went online for the first time. Like before, like therapy had never been online. I'm sure you guys remember that. It was like frantic, like how do we do the video call? What are we doing? And so, we made it work, and a lot of the people on my caseload were showing signs of panic attacks, like more severe. If they had anxiety, they would have that panic, or, if depression, it was like suicidal ideations and crisis. And it came to a point where it's like, well, where are we going to send them? We're not going to send them to higher level care at the hospitals that are full. So I started thinking, and then I saw that there was this breakthrough ketamine research that was really fast for suicidal ideation. So I was like, all right, that's the tool that I need. So that's how I ended up getting the ketamine training. Yeah. So what is CAP? So I trained in the type of ketamine therapy that is ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. So you can do just ketamine medicine at like an infusion clinic. So they give you an IV, and you actually take the medicine, and it does have really good benefits just with the medicine itself for anti-anxiety, anti-depression. But when you combine it with therapy, that is called CAP. And so I gravitated towards that because I noticed that in the research, you could sustain the results longer. So you could do the treatment, but then you would kind of sort of relapse back into depression or anxiety after the medication would wear off. So I started becoming really interested in this thing called integration. So how do you use the ketamine as an altered state, go into your subconscious, get insights, and use the medicinal benefit of the neuroplasticity to then sustain the results. You're going to make lifestyle adjustments, change up your routines, resolve conflicts, inner battles that you might be having, so that you can actually get the relief and prolong it. So that is the way that you work with it in therapy, and it can make therapy processes like CBT. We have CBT where you are trying to reframe your negative thoughts, right? Your feelings and your thoughts are connected, and that affects your behavior. And it's something that, is really used like in trauma therapy, depression, anxiety, OCD treatment, like reframe your thinking. But we might think, I could think we're positive, I know, okay, that bad thing happened in the past, and that was overwhelming and scary. But you still stay with the belief of, there's something wrong with me, or something that's dangerous about the world, just as an automatic thing. Like, something triggers you, and then you get the belief again, or, you're somatic, like your body reacts. So with the ketamine therapy, you're really able to break out of those thought loops. The way that the ketamine works is cumulative. So you'll have 4 to 6 doses of it, sessions. So in the first dose, you're lighting up, you're regrowing neurons, you're lighting up other areas of your brain that maybe have been deactivated or not using as much. So it starts to create this plastic, flexible, creative thinking. So just like when you're a kid and you can learn like 5 languages, you're like, oh, okay, I'm more open, I'm more sharp, I'm more present. People tend to start slowing down, like pausing before they react. So you have that little bit of space. And so it actually makes reframing negative thoughts more effective. Like you can embody that. Like you can actually believe like I'm safe, instead of just thinking I gotta think positive that I'm safe right now. So it's prescribed by nurse practitioners and psychiatrists. And it's in different forms. So you can do sublingual tabs, nasal spray, which is called Spravato, and intramuscular, which is like a COVID shot. It goes in the muscle. Next slide, please. So what does CAP feel like? So the ketamine itself is a dissociative anesthesia. So it's not like a classic psychedelic where you would feel like with psilocybin, with mushrooms. It's really, those classic psychedelics, they can also be very long. So, like 4 to 6 hours, sometimes 12 hours. Ketamine metabolizes in the body quickly, so it really lends itself to therapy. It's 45 minutes usually for people to an hour of a journey. And it's much more neutral. So because of the anesthesia, your body will go numb. So you're not going to be like walking around during the session. You're going to be inward. So it'll feel like a really powerful mindfulness meditation. Kind of leave the body and you float and you kind of observe everything. So really good for trauma work as well, where you can actually get a neutral perspective, where you can revisit something and see it from a different angle, like in terms of a relationship or something like that, or habits that you have. So people report that that is a very different, cool experience, and sometimes even mystical or spiritual. Yeah. So what is the process like? So people always ask me, how long is the actual session? Because the journey part of it is 45 minutes to an hour. So we book a 3-hour time slot, and so you get comfy, in your space. I incorporate art therapy. So that's where the art comes in. So I like to help people prepare their mindset before doing the medicine to just say, okay, we're going to set an intention. This isn't like a drug-seeking thing where I'm escaping, right, and avoiding. So what is going to be your question? Like, what do you want to explore? So we do that. And like I said, there's 4 to 6 sessions. And I work with a team called Journey Clinical. So you partner with them, and if you're a licensed therapist, anybody can become a member, and they train you in ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. And I actually train a lot of the members. So part of the training is you're able to do your own session to see how it feels. And yeah, with colleagues, and you're also able to go through some videos to actually learn the process. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is an art piece that I made when I became ketamine trained. So in my visuals, in my vision during ketamine therapy, I looked down at one point and I saw this glowing neon rose. And I was actually in shock. I was like, oh, what is this? And actually my colleague that I trained with is here tonight. She's Rada in the back. So she was doing my session. We were sitting for each other, getting trained in ketamine therapy. And I said, oh, I want the other Latina therapist, please, to be my sitter. Because this is just weird. I'm doing drugs at work. There's an apocalypse going on. This is beyond trippy. Please sit me with the other Latina person in this team. So we did that. We had an opportunity to do a low dose and a high dose session, and then we switched. And yeah, so one of my visions was basically my soul energy. I saw it, I was in the journey, I was showing the rose to different people in my life, and different things would happen. So it was showing me the dynamics too of how people respond to my loving kindness energy. So some people would see the rose and they would be like, oh, let's dance. Other people would see it and they would be uplifted. So it was very interesting and telling and illuminating. So I ended up doing this painting, and this hangs in my home. So I always encourage my clients to do that. Even if you need to use a digital art tool, you're not trained in art, maybe make a collage. Try to capture the colors, the energy, the essence, the mood of it. And then you can hang it in your home or save it on your phone as a wallpaper, and it can help actually remind you. And in my integration call, they asked me, do you connect with roses? What do roses mean to you? What could be a daily practice to connect with that rose energy? So I was using rose sprays. Something really indigenous to us is herbal baths. So I was doing herbal baths then, and actually incorporating a meditation called loving kindness meditation. So that was part of my journey with experiencing the medicine and the CAP work for myself. Yeah, so I wanted to also honor that, this is like an ancestral way of healing. It's really that we come from lineages that have done a lot of healing work in groups and have used plant medicines to commune with spirits, to get messages, to guide the communities. So I see this path as also a way of remembering for me, because I have Taino lineage. So I have, moved away from individual sessions of doing ketamine. You can do ketamine work individually with me still, but then I will always say, you can graduate to the group now. Being witnessed in community with others will be helpful. So next slide, please. So I will talk a little bit about this philosophy of set and setting, which is very crucial in the psychedelic therapy work. So set refers to your mindset, and setting is like the place or the people that you're with when you're in a journey. So with the mindset, as I said, you want to be intentional, but not set a goal. Like, okay, I'm going to do this medicine, and then A plus B equals Z, and I'm going to put a formula, and I'm going to get this result. Because you want to set your intention up and then be flexible. So we have a saying called TLO, trust, let go, be open. And I teach people these things before you enter medicine, that you can use mantra or affirmation. So you can say to yourself, breathe, and you just take deep breaths, and that helps the medicine guide you to your subconscious to show you what you need to see and what emerges. Or you could say to yourself, surrender, or repeat your intention during the journey. And then we also use guided playlists. So ketamine therapy is done with ambient music, which is part of mindset, because you don't want to have lyrical music where you're prompting someone, with words, although we all have associations with music. So a lot of times people in the sessions will say, oh, that one sounded like a battle song, and I was fighting my inner demon, right? So you're still going to have that association, but we try to keep it as loose as possible while the music's still holding the container. So when you're doing ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, you're going to be reclined. Like I said, your body goes numb, and you're going to be wearing an eye mask to go inward. And then when we do it either individually or in group, there is time at the end to talk. So you have tea, you can journal, stay inward for a little bit, and then you can share your experience with your therapist or with other group members. And people find it really powerful, to be witnessed, but also they gain downloads from other people's journeys. So oh, and then they also think, oh, that's how you did it. Oh, so you told yourself to be curious, and then that helped you in your journey. So you learn tips and tricks from other journeyers. So we're going to practice today. You can go to the next slide. One of the art exercises that I use, and I use this intuitive scribble drawing prompt with or without ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. So this is a favorite art therapy tool, and it actually mimics how you can kind of work with your subconscious in medicine, but without medicine. So I'm going to guide you through. So you're going to find on the tables there some art supplies. There's going to be paper and markers. Some people have coloring pencils or crayons. And I'm just going to demo up here. So what you're going to do for a scribble drawing is release your inner critic, and you're just going to scribble just like you were when you were a kid, since there's no wrong way to make a scribble. So this is a chance to just do an abstract art. So you can choose a color, one that you're going to work with, and then you can put the pen or marker, drawing utensil, in your non-dominant hand. So you can use your non-dominant hand, or you can close your eyes, and you're just going to scribble one continuous line. And then when you feel complete, you just stop, and I'll give you the next step. So we're just making a scribble. And you can even do bilateral, meaning both hands. Have one color in one hand and another in the other. You can tone in with your breathing. Take some deep breaths. totally okay if you draw on the table, you go off the page. And then once you've got a scribble and you feel complete, if you do, you can stop. And what you're going to do is you're going to look into your scribble. So what you're looking for is an inspiration for an image. You can see any figure or creature or symbols, and you're going to use the other art materials to enhance that image. So you're going to bring it out more, embellish it, elaborate on the image. And you can orient the page, you can turn it around, you can get up, walk around it, and you can try to see what speaks to you, what jumps out at you. And you just have to use your imagination, just be playful. There's no right or wrong answer. If you want to experiment, if you have both markers and coloring pencils, you can switch up your art supply. Fun fact, in art therapy, we are trained on art materials. So if some client comes in to see us and they're feeling very chaotic, we might give them a smaller canvas or a collage, something to contain them, coloring pencils. But sometimes people are feeling really restricted or rigid, so we might want to give them watercolors and help them flow. So you can see how the different art materials will affect your mood and help you balance. Your symbol that came up, and what do you think it means? What kind of does it show about how you've been feeling lately? Maybe an experience you had, something going on, something you need to know. Maybe you could talk to your art and say, what are you here to show me? What's your message? And then there is not just the content of what you make, but how was it making it? So how did you talk to yourself when you made your art? Was there any inner critic? Was it this is fun? Or was it oh, I don't know, what's this wacky lady have us do? What does it have to do with anything? So, you could think about your process and your approach towards art. You're oh, I really miss doing art. I haven't done art. Why haven't I done art in so long? What was your inner dialogue that came up in the process of making it? Are you a person that likes to do imperfect art, or do you like to do really structured, crafts? Are you feeling oh, that was really freeing, or this was really messy? So thinking about how the process was and how that could be part of your personality, your preferences, or patterns. So yeah, give a chat to your neighbor and then pass the art around and see each other's scribbles. Talking about art after our next presentation. I encourage you all to take your art home with you. That is part of the art therapy process, is what you do with the art after. So you could keep dialoguing with it, journal about it, make a song about it, change it to a poem. You can make an art response to the art that you made, like maybe something your art creature needs, or to be continued art. And then I just want to tell you guys about an upcoming offering that my practice has. So my practice is in Williamsburg. We rent out at the Grand Street Healing Project, so that's where we do our in-person groups and individual sessions. And we are going to have an upcoming Ketamine-Assisted Psychotherapy group for New Year's. So it's going to be a New Year's mental health reset, and we love to host healers in our groups. So we specialize in burnout, anxiety, depression, complex PTSD, just life transitions, adjustments, going through, needing clarity. So we love to host the groups and call them Heal the Healer. And we'll have another container opening up soon. So if you are interested and want to join my mailing list, my wait list to subscribe, I have a clipboard with a QR code here, and I'm going to place that over where the name tags were. So you can go ahead and follow that. And yeah, I offer free consults, so you can talk to me more about if you want to join our New Year's group, or if you're interested in ketamine therapy. We do events and workshops for free all the time too. So definitely follow along and keep in touch. And I'd love to hear about your art that you made later on in the night after the next talk. You can follow me. You can subscribe to me here. I'm art.of.integration on Instagram. You can shoot me an email, and my website's there as well. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me, Bianca.